Alright, here's the second video in the building function standard for the, let's see, spring 2019 Math 2 second semester final. This is all inclusive for the entire year. You're going to hear this disclaimer on every video just so you guys all know that this list of topics on the review document and this series of videos is not all inclusive of everything you need to study. You are responsible for studying everything we've learned over the entire year, making sure everybody in the room's cell phones are off and they're not looking at them right now. Okay, so the second concept is find the inverse. We just talked off camera. What's the first thing you do when you're trying to find an inverse? You swap x and y. So I make this in y equals format. I'll do that over here as well, even though it's a g. And then they said swap x and y. Why do we swap the x and y? Because the domain and range swap. Anytime you have an inverse, the domain and range swap. What does that look like on the graph? It's a reflection over what line? That's right, a reflection over the y equals x line. That's an important concept to remember forever and ever. But let's get back to our task at hand right here. Once you swap x and y, that's not the end of the day. You have to now isolate y. That's what the inverse is. Now, a lot of students think, hey, I'm supposed to solve or plug in values or anything like that. No, this is a very mechanical procedure. Just do inverse operations, get everything away from y. You don't have to simplify or multiply anything. Just do inverse operations. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Any questions on that? And what should be the last step? Divide by 2. Boom, that is my inverse. Now I can write it in function notation. I can say f inverse, that's what the -1 means, of x equals that. Any questions on that? Don't be afraid to ask questions on the videos, because sometimes it's okay for me to answer more questions that say more concepts on the videos. Okay, guys and girls? Okay, everybody help me out. What do I do over here to isolate this y? I already flipped them, Isaac. Add 8 is correct. Okay? So adding 8. How do I put x and 8 together? This is Marcus's question. What's x plus 8? It's just x plus 8. Now what's next? Are you sure you don't square root first? Ooh, that's a good question. In this case, you go in reverse order of PEMDAS. So if you were trying to plug this in, you'd square first, but when you're trying to find the inverse, you go in reverse order and divide by 3 first. And then the last thing is the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of that, and the square root of that is the whole thing with the fraction underneath on the bottom too. So G inverse is the square root of, make sure you make it a big square root and put the entire thing inside the radical symbol. And those are the answers. Any questions?